Hi, welcome everybody. Welcome to another episode of the interview series. Today we're going to be talking about the subject of smart visual content and event tech, a trend to watch. And I hope that you enjoy it. And today we're going to be interviewing the legend that is Bogdan Maran. Yay! And the crowd goes wild.
Yeah, that was a very nice intro.
Well, Bogdan is not only a great friend and a great ally, partner, etc., etc. He's also the co-founder and in charge of strategy and data from AMP Digital. Bogdan is co-founder of AMP Digital and is leading the smart visual content and data efforts with a focus on delivering engaging and personalized experiences. Alongside the team at AMP Digital, he's building the future of data-driven visual content for B2B industry with a strong focus on events and sports. It's always up for a conversation around smart video, monetization, data, AI, and blockchain. And on top of all of that, Bogdan is also one of these especially creative people that whatever you throw at him, he comes up with amazing solutions and even better way on how to present it. Bogdan presentations are, for me, some of the best that I've seen ever. So welcome, Bogdan. It's a joy and a pleasure to be here with you, brother, and
And
have a
thank you
wonderful
very
time.
much for the very, very, very kind words. And it's absolute pleasure to be here. It's always a fun to talk to. It's been always constructive and creative. So I'm looking forward to this.
Good, good, good. Bogdan, for the part of the audience that doesn't know you, tell us a little bit about you.
Uh, I'll try to be short. I think the best description is coming from a friend called Nathan, and he said that I'm a photojournalist turned data scientist, which is not completely accurate, but it kind of encompasses the fact that I've spent a long time working in anything from war zones to sports, and specifically working with Red Bull and Reuters, which are relevant for this conversation, and understanding what the value of images beyond the creative side, beyond the storytelling, and how you can engage communities and how you can use images to create added value past the beautiful shots that they used to take. And the data scientist is that I'm not a data scientist per se. I'm fascinated by data. Everything we build and everything
Oh,
we do is around data. So,
you're a nerd. You're a nerd that looks.
oh
You,
God,
you
yes,
look you look cool. People wouldn't tell that you're a nerd, but you're a nerd actually.
I'll
Yeah.
take that. I'll definitely take that with the looking cool. Although my daughter might disagree completely on that because she's 12 and I'm her dad, so it's just stay away from me. But I'll take that. Thank you.
Yeah, I've seen some of your photos, man. They're amazing. So you're a very talented visual artist, and I really really admire and that's a skill that I so don't have. That I have so much respect and admiration for anyone that has that talent. I consider it like a superpower, you know. Yeah, it's like
Thank you.
whenever I have a friend that's an architect, for some reason everything they do looks a little bit better. Yeah, I don't know. You know.
They do. That is frustrating. I fully understand that. I have a few
Yeah,
friends who are architects, and from everything from the way they dress to the output of their work is like,
yeah,
how?
yeah. And that's my feeling with you, from a non-artist to an artist. And you have this fantastic right brain, left brain kind of capacity, which I think is what makes you so special, so particular. Is that you have the artistic side, but you're also a geek, and you like intricate and precision and breaking things into pieces and measuring. You're very good at presenting measurement. Yeah.
Thank you. I am a geek from that perspective on this. I'm obsessed.
how do you arrive at the events industry?
Um, com- More or less by, not necessarily by accident. I've been in events industry, technically speaking, for all my life, because Olympic Games are events, mass participation sports are events, Premier League is an event, huge ones per se, but
Of
they are
course.
events. And when I started in startups about 7, 8 years ago, a friend of mine recommended to look for photography startups because it made sense with my experience. And when we joined a former company called Splento, the tech that they had and the whole product that they had was more B2C, but it was absolutely huge. It's very similar to what you guys have in the back end. It's very nice on the front end, but in the back end, it's huge, magnificent, and beast. And that's what I found there. And it made sense instantly. Click, you have to go to the events industry because it's a startup thing. Identify a problem, try to solve it. There was a problem with in the event industry in terms of images, on-demand stuff. It was very much a keyword at that point. And we just started there in the 6 months. I think we started working with everybody, turned it up at TTL and everything else. So it was there.
Okay, gotcha. All right, that's an interesting take. So you came from like from the photography, from the visual artistry side of events, and I mean, this is a conversation I had with a friend of mine recently. Is that we're talking about hybrid now, but the Premier League is every game is a hybrid event, right? Because it's
Yes.
been they went through the adding the virtual online audience. I mean, what about like 15 years ago maybe, and there was a big discussion. Remember, people will not show up at games if you actually show
Yeah.
it on TV. It's gonna. So they had this whole thing, and still now, whoever has a contract for the Premier League will not allow that the games are shown live in other. They're very careful with how they share the content. I think they still.
It's something that bugs me a lot because I'm coming from a sports background. So I think I've done everything when it comes to sports, including cricket, which is something that I still don't understand, technically speaking. But it's that concept of reaching audiences, because that's the key point of it. It's you have a very limited access to a venue, which is very similar to what we do with conferences and trade shows, which you can fit X amount of people. And whereas when you go to, I don't know, to Red Bull games, or you go to Formula One, when you go to Premier League, when you go to anything like this, the actual audience is tenfold what you get from the live presence. And there
Exactly.
were those conversations always about how can we make it more engaging, and the tech that came out of it was fantastic, from the feeling and how can you build that virtual experience from that perspective. And it's the other way around that went around is the gaming industry, which went from purely being online, when we were playing all the Counter-Strike or anything like that, you had to go to, even if you're in the same, we didn't have rooms back then, we show our age, we didn't have really good internet at home, so you had to go to a gaming room, and even if you're with 5 friends there, you still had to connect for a computer, so it was still a digital experience. And now they took that to a physical experience, to a live event where they could share this with that emotion that comes into from a group of people being together, and that resonance of thoughts and feelings that comes through it. So those are two examples that I try to learn from a lot from that perspective.
Tell us a little bit about AMP Digital and what you do at AMP Digital. When you the kind of stuff that you do. Not only you there, also you there, but then also what AMP Digital in general does.
We define ourselves as we build products for the event industry. That's how we define ourselves. So it's not one product, but multiple products, because, and I'm sure we'll go with this soon, it's about making things work together, and we've have this experience together especially. And we build beautiful products because that's how we have to, and how everything has to look when it comes to us. And those are data driven. So that's what digital is. We focus mainly, our main product now is on video and smart video, hence the conversation, and SmartVisual Content. But we have a lot of experience building experiences and building bespoke experiences, and that's where we found niches where we can start building products and not necessarily pick up something that you guys have or somebody else has and put them together. And we think video is an underrated mind gold, basically. I don't have a nicer word, which is technically not used to not even 2% of what it can do at this point. And that's why we started focusing on that and building that product apart from anything else.
Give me a couple of examples. What do you think that everyone else is missing a beat on? What do you think is something that is underutilized, or something that people can relate to?
I can go for hours probably here, but it's
Right.
very simple. It's if you look at statistics, because I like data, and we go to the geek mode, you've got in Europe alone around 2,500 trade shows. So we pick up this huge mammoth content production hubs. That's how I call them, because you go to Money 2020, they have 135 speakers, which are thought leaders within their industry. So that's the size we're talking about, and they have an on-demand solution, but nobody's going to watch 350 hours, probably even more than that. I think it's a few thousand hours per show. But if you go back to, we'll go into the smart content, if you make it interactive, if you make it measurable, that will have a huge change. And the main change is that at the moment, 90% or even close to 100% of the industry looks at content as an expense. How much do I need to pay to produce this content? Be it what you're doing here, you have a platform, you have to pay that, you have a producer, blah, 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 all the way to recording those sessions. But where video is very strong, and we've talked about this in Premier League and in games industry and everything else, it's a monetizable tool. So what people don't understand is that they have to move it from I'm spending money on this to how much money can I make out of it? And there are hundreds of questions there. What's the lifespan of content? Nobody kind of measures the lifespan. What's the interactivity? Where do you go? Not how many times people actually clicked on it, but imagine as I see video as a layer cake. And you have the front end that we see here. That's okay. But then you can add transcriptions, subtitles. You can search in it. You can understand behavioral patterns based on what are people actually watching? What's the bit that they are going to share? Because when you understand that, you have the perks of actually having technology now, like natural language understanding, to understand all these layers. What sponsors do I have? How many eyeballs do I have there? Because if you go to a trade show, one of the things that you're going to sell as a sponsorship package is a lanyard. Yeah, it's very fun, nothing to do with it. Excellent. You have no data behind lanyards, literally no behavioral data behind, but still you sell that as you're going to put Shocklogic's logo on ETL, for example, because you're the main sponsor, and that's one of the packages. But nobody sells you, can you put an ad in here so I can target people, add value to what they do? And then this is us. And then you look at the younger generation. The younger generation, so my kid is 12 now, my daughter. They communicate through photos and videos. That's how they do. That's what they do. It's not about get past the emoji bit. Yeah, they spam everybody with emojis. That's why I'm not using WhatsApp, because my mom and daughter are there and they are crazy from that perspective. But between her and her friends, visual content, photos, and specifically videos, that's how they communicate between themselves and with the world around them. And they are going to be the future. They are the ones who are going to come here and tell us, this is how I want things to be done. And if we don't see that, if we don't use it properly, we're going to lose a lot.
Okay. So that is actually what you define as smart visual content, right? That is that sense. You were talking about AMP Digital and the kind of stuff that you do, the kind of customers that you have. Continue there. I think that I took you down a tangent.
Oh, no. It's what we do is so we work. When I started AMMP Digital, I think the first gig we had was in partnership with you guys, because we had to build an experience for the Royal Academy of Engineering. And I didn't think we would win this. We just pitched because it was just, I think, a week in the pandemic when everything was canceled, and we came up with this concept of how can we make an experience work so they can achieve their goals, because that's the whole purpose of the conversation. It's not about can we make, I know, the prettiest networking, can we make the prettiest videos, can we make the video searchable or anything like that. It's about, can the experience work for that specific moment in time or for that specific audience. And that means that what we came up with that tube concept of them going around London because they couldn't come to London. And that's how we started. We started with, can we make a visual experience that makes sense from a UX perspective and a functionality perspective. And after fighting that and going through other clients, we've started focusing on a couple of products because we truly believe that we can't do this alone. So we need to work with other people. And we've toyed a little bit with registration because that's one pain point, and then we went to video because it kind of felt more natural at some point. And the clients we work now with, we do a bit of production. It's more of a boutique solution where we have pain points and things like this. But one of the things that we've done, and I'll give you a clear example, was with Informa Markets, with Vita Foods. They had a problem. They came to us and said, the Geneva show, they moved it to November. It was supposed to be digital. One of the revenue streams was the B2B guided groups, call hands for buyers, take them from point A to point B on the trade floor, introduce them to whatever companies they need to do. So it was a bespoke experience for both the exhibitors and the buyers from that perspective. And they couldn't do that because physically there was no trade show. So they had a big problem. What we came up with at the end was a thing called innovation tours. So they did the editorial part in terms of identifying who were the innovators within the industry. We had 4 different verticals like omega-3 and probiotics and all this kind of stuff. That's their specialty. And then we came up with this structure of video content where we had everything from 30 seconds to 30 minutes content. Specifically around that, we've recorded everything, we've put it together. It looked absolutely smashing. But more importantly, it came out good because we've targeted all the buyers with the correct content. So if a buyer was in probiotics, they would see the probiotic bit. If they went on social media, they would see the 30 seconds. They would come back. If they wanted to explore, they had a 10 minutes on the stand. And then they had a 30-minute curated by a professor that was specialized in this, that if you want to go even more in depth in the content. And from what we understand in the data is that was quite a success because all the buyers who were targeted went afterwards to the exhibitors that they were interested in and said, we need to talk, we've seen this, can we find out more? So that's kind of the overall solutions that we do. And from there, it started being more interesting because we started saying, okay, you have all this content. How can we make this content searchable? How can we make this content accessible? You've got Vita Foods has a audience, worldwide audience. They have one show in Asia, one show in Europe, but they're coming from everywhere. South America, Africa, Asia, everybody, you have language barriers. So we've started translating all the content so people can actually have that, can understand what people were saying, specifically around keynotes. We started, that's how we started our OGT product in terms of searching video and targeted videos. So it was quite fun.
Sounds fantastic. Sounds fantastic. And having worked with you in the past, I can imagine that it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of was very creative. And so the word hybrid is being thrown around. We seem to, we call it here Shocklogic, calling the same animal with different names, or calling different animals with the same name. So in this case, it's calling different animals with the same name. So how would you define hybrid? What would hybrid means for AMP or for Bogdan Maran?
For us, we look at hybrid and we specifically try to do this in terms of actively trying to engage in this conversation with clients from the start. We look at hybrid as when a hybrid event is when you have a digital experience during the live event. So that can be, it can start with a simple live stream of everything, but it's not just a live stream. You have to have some kind of interactivity on it, on a chat, so you can engage with the digital with people on digital. What we don't call hybrid is video on demand, which everybody should have it because it should be mandatory. But that's not necessarily a hybrid event, because video on demand, to use your phrasing, is another monster, completely different animal. So for us, hybrid is when you have some kind of an digital experience during the live event. That's where I see them hybrid. The challenge I think we're going to face is, and we have to sort it, is that hybrid should become just events. You have to have events that have something, that
Yeah.
hybrid element. And then digital events would be something that's what we're doing here specifically, because these are very simple to be done. We don't have to drive, we don't have to kill a planet, we don't have to do anything. Costs is way low. And this is digital. Whereas live should be a very bespoke, very targeted event where you have smaller niches, you have, I mean, exclusively live. I mean, that makes sense to make it exclusively live, where you have to have the handshake to sort the business out.
Do you think if there's any event that should be exclusively live, or does every event have the potential of also having the you call it, or to have a digital experience during a live event?
Yes, 100%. I think, for example, networking events. Specifically networking events, I mean, the usual breakfast or morning or afternoon events, specifically local, targeted local communities. Those make almost no sense to have a physical event, because the whole point of that there is to have a coffee, have a handshake, fill the room, see where you want to talk to, and move forward. Those are the points of it. That's the whole vibe of it, because you can mimic that to a certain degree in digital. You can have digital experiences, but they don't compare. The value of it is not there. The counter argument to that is where you can have digital events exclusively because it doesn't really make sense to go physical, and it has some success specifically around the biggest publishers like Informa or Read, or if you go to anything like this, is the B2B hosted buyers. Because the B2B hosted buyers is literally sit at a table, talk to 30 people, do that. And what used to be before as a good trip reason, where are you going today? Oh, we're going to Rome. Let's see Rome. Why not? Week there. That can be a hosted, that's a different experience from actually talking to people. If you want to do business, if you want to physically find out who are the, you want to go to Rome and host an event, you can do the hosted buyer face to face. If you want to feel Rome and see what the vibe of Rome is and have a few days, that's a live event. That doesn't have to be digital from that perspective. But we have to understand that at some point we have to be pragmatic about business versus let's fill the place.
Gotcha.
In my head, at least.
You are extremely flexible. You guys at AMP, you're very flexible. You work with a few people in the industry. You're very good at creating connections and working in a very I would say a collaborative and symbiotic way with other companies. And to me, you really you really try. You work hard on making sure that you rely on experts. Realizing what is in your strengths or what haven't you got yet. So you use somebody else. So we collaborated a lot, and I know you collaborate with a number of other people in the industry. What would you say is what would you find as the key for collaboration between tech platforms or in the industry, et cetera, et cetera?
A few things on that. It's we've always thought that if you work with other people, it's going to be better in terms of the output of the experience, because it's about the experience. And I think in terms of steps that we need to take to understand that is, first of all, we have to start accepting we as a tech industry, I mean platforms and everything else, that you can't do everything by yourself, regardless how good you are or how much investment money you have or anything like that. You cannot do anything by yourself because it's physically impossible. And once you accept that, then you go down the route of a few other problems, challenges, sorry, no problems. One of them being data. And that's, we go back to the geek bit. And that's one of the big problems because, as you very well know, we don't really have a standardization on data until VSEF came out and we started actually working on that. So even if we accepted that, things were, we could work better together. The value added is better than 1 + 1 = 2. It's actually 3, maybe 4, 5, depending on the value. Some of the data bits didn't allow us to do that and still don't allow us to do that. So the data is extremely important. And the other, I have 2 more things on this. One is very simple. I've learned a long time ago that you can be a very good generalist, but that means that you can do a lot of things okay. But when you have a specialist, that specialist is dedicated and has an output that will beat you anytime when it comes to specialization. I used to be an agency guy as a photographer, so I used to do everything because that's how I liked it. That was it. And I started specializing in sports because I liked it. I liked the vibe and I was quite good at it. But I would never be able to beat a sports photographer, a properly good sports photographer. It's like talking about sports. It's like basketball. Yeah, we both like basketball. You can be a good overall player, but you can't be Stephen Curry because you're never going to shoot those threes like he does. You can't be Shaq because he's a specialist. He's not going to shoot threes because he's definitely not interested in that. But in the paint, most impressive specialized person, and that's the problem. It was like anything, like Barkley, not necessarily tall, not there, but he was specialized on being aggressive, big, and fast, and that was his thing. And of course, you have general players, but the value of those specializations are huge, absolutely huge. And I think that's a thing that we have to learn about, doing what we do best, and then working with other people that do those very, very good things. And the last thing I think, which is a thought that I've been having this conversation for a while now, it's, I think platforms like you guys, like all other platforms, and tech guys like us are actually curators of technology, because we work in an industry that is not necessarily very savvy in terms of tech when it comes to organizers. We still have the problems. No, I want to do Zoom because it's easier. Don't do Zoom. Value production is there. Here is a button. You click on it, it works. Oh, no, I'll send the link in the chat. Link is in the chat, don't work. Don't put a link on the screen. So you have all these problems. Always have these problems. So what we must do is, because we are the geeks, because we are the ones that specialize in technology and do this, we have to start curating content. So even if, let's say, you have a client and you're the main provider for it, to identify other partners that can deliver something that you are not very good at is key. But that identification is very important because you're doing the work for the organizer. The organizer can go and say, "Oh, I want to have it like that, like that, like that." And for the value, because I know my tech and I know what technology is, these are the best, so that you can have that experience or that KPIs hit from there. And I think that's where I see. I think it's key. First of all, if there is no collaboration, there won't be an industry. It's just ridiculous from that perspective. So people who say no, I'm not working with anybody, are just what?
Yeah.
And there are examples of that. I mean, there are very bad examples of that where the experience becomes extremely bad.
Okay. How do you see events fitting into the concept of communities, and what is the relationship there? How do you see that panning out?
I've got a good rant on that. I mean, it's one of my pain points. So it's always about, I don't agree with the idea that events build community. 100% no to that, because communities exist. Events activate community. Events give communities a platform to meet, to talk. Events give space, breathing space, energy, everything you want from that, but not building communities, because the communities are there. Uh, the event technology industry is not there, did not come up after Event Tech Live started their events. Event Tech Live gave us a voice, gave us a place to meet, gave us a chance to grow. And what they did, they built trust because they added value. So if I go to Event Tech Live and I meet you guys, because that's how it met and everything else, it added value. So I'm starting to trust Adam and the team at Event Tech Live. So I'm going to believe more and more about what they do. And I trust them when they curate information for me, because there is a huge amount of information from that. So what Adam has and ETL has done, and I'm using that example because we both love the show, is they haven't created the event technology, because you guys are older than Event Tech Live. So you've been on the market way longer than that. C-Event, how many other companies, events cases, how many companies are there before Event Tech Live? You were there and you knew of each other. But what Adam has done, like on any other event show, is to bring us together, to give us that space where we can rant about communities, we got to know each other, we started collaborating, we have partnerships, and it's curating for the event industry on the other side in terms of the marketplace, for the publishers and the organizers to come and see this group of individuals that are part of this niche.
Good.
That's my rant.
I don't think it's so much of a rant. I think actually it's pretty valid. How so we coming to the end of this. Thank you for your time. Anything else that you want to add, Bogdan?
A little bit. I know we've talked about the smart visual content and video and what that means, and it's kind of my baby, and I'm very passionate about it. It's not kind of, it is my baby. I just wanted to add to our first few questions about what is smart visual content and how we define it and how we think it should be defined. When you look at video and to make it better and to make it more, to add value, to move it from that I'm paying for it, it's making me money, it has to have three elements, mandatory three elements in it. It has to be interactive. So I'm talking about everything from search in video, share, everything like that. It has to be curated, because I'm not going to watch an 8-hour show ever. I'm not going to stay 8 hours in front of the computer watching anything, not even Netflix. I'm not watching Netflix for 8 hours. And third, it has to be measurable, because if you take any of this away, it's not smart anymore. If you measure it a little bit, okay, I understand things and it can help. But if it's not interactive, people are not going to actually come there, so you have nothing to measure. If it's not curated, again, people are going to, I'm going to tell you what the data is. People are going to watch the first 3 to 18 minutes and then go home. You don't have to measure anything. That's the interactivity on it.
So you said interactive, curated, and measurable?
Yes.
Okay.
You
Excellent.
have to have those three ticks. If you have those 3 ticks, you're going to start adding value that you can't even imagine how much value you can add to your events and to your experiences from that.
Brilliant. So yeah, among the things that you said, which are very interesting, of course, is the smart video content concept is, I think, is a great concept. Or listen, I forgot to ask you, OGD. Tell me a little bit about OGD.
OGD is one of our first products that we come to market. So OGD is, technically speaking, we describe it as a plug-and-play solution for interactivity and monetization. That's the easiest I can do. What
does that mean in English?
In English is as an MVP, because it's an MVP and we are early on the market with it. We take the database, the video database, we put it in your platform, so you don't have to go anywhere, because I think that's very important. We transcribe and translate everything, so you have accessibility. You can search in the video for specific keywords. So, for example, if you have, let's take your series of interviews. Yes, we are all busy. I don't really have time to watch now because I just found out about them. I'm not going to watch everything. But I'm interested in revenue, for example, or curation. I can search revenue. I'll go straight in the point of the revenue. I listen to that and see that add value, and I build trust around you. Now, that's the beginning for us, and I know this is going to be more of a standard in coming days. What we do is we look at behavior and curation, because the most important thing for Oct is curation. So once we understand what you are interested in, we want to save you time, which we believe is the most important element that you have when you're going to an event, and curate content for you. So once we understand, I don't know, the registration, for example, you're going to a conference and you're interested in A, B, and C, not D, E, and F. So we can push content that is relevant to you. Once you start searching for things, we can actually learning about with natural language understanding and using AI. We are building this on IBM's platform. So we're using Watson AI in this example. And we understand what people are actually saying in the video, so you can start curating those bits that are relevant to you. And the next step for it, which is what we're working on now, it's a concept that we call user curated content. So you have user generated content, which is a normal thing, you take selfies, but we believe that for your brand is more valuable to let a user select a thought that is interesting for them and share it to their community. So curating your content for their community. And that's where we are. That's how we've built Oct. And now we are moving to that part of the product where you can actually physically just select a bit of text, edit it, top and tail it with the added logos and everything else, and share it to your community. But always, that means that it's interactive, that means that it's curated, and you always measure this. And we're working with this with people like Snowball, who measure impact on social media. So you're taking content from, oh, I'm going to record this maybe, to every single line in your pipeline, from user acquisition to activation to everything. That's Oct.
Good, wonderful. Okay, so smart visual content. Hybrid is having a digital experience during a live event. I love that comment. Event do not build communities. Communities already exist. What the event does is to energize them, right? To bring oxygen and air into them. And then video needs three elements to be really effective, or to be really powerful, which is interactivity, be able to be curated, or to be curated, and measurable, right? Great. Thank you, Bogdan. Like always, wonderful to have you. Namaste.
Absolute
For
pleasure.
the Shocklogic team. The team here at Shocklogic, you're a beloved friend, and the team still constantly talk about you, and we're very, very fond of you and your team, the team at AMP. So
huge fan of you guys and good friends. And again, I'm always so much fun.
Great.
Talk and work.
Cheers.
And it's thank you very much, man. Have a
Thank you,
day.
everybody. Thank you for being with us here. We see you in another episode of the interview series. Cheers. Bye-bye.